Hey guys, what's up, Zyflin here, and today I wanted to make a video talking about melee builds within Warframe, because I get asked this question a lot during my streams. Like, people are asking me, hey Flynn, how do I build my melee weapon? Like, what's the best build to throw my melee weapon, different things like that there, and I try to make it, like, as generalized as possible whenever I respond to people who ask that type of question. Like, okay, well, you build a blood rush body count build in that weapon, and then they respond with, well, what's that? And I'm just there sitting like, wow, do you want me to list every single mod that you need to throw on your weapon? And that's just inefficient whenever it comes to me streaming and kind of replying to people and stuff like that there, and I can't necessarily stop what I'm doing in the stream to show a person the build that they're meant to be doing, because we might be doing a sortie or something. So I wanted to make a video talking about it and the most common ways of modding within Warframe for melee weapons. So I actually already recorded this video, and then I realized that my microphone wasn't selected in OBS, so here I am recording it again. So yeah, that happened. So we're gonna be using the Broken War as our little dummy melee weapon here. Broken War is a really nice sort of balanced weapon. It's one of the best swords in the game, if not the best. So yeah, your stance mod matters, but if you're an early game player, it doesn't matter too much. And to begin with, we're going to go over the most simplistic ways of modding your melee weapon, right? So I'm going to show you guys like a few must-have mods and a few rules that come into play whenever we are modding, okay? So first off, we want to throw on our prime pressure point here, or our regular pressure point, depending on how deep into the game you are. This is going to be your main damage mod, and on top of that, you want to also throw on a attack speed mod, right? So your attack speed, it doesn't matter which melee weapon you're using, it's going to up your DPS, right? That's your damage per second. And there's basically two rules that come into play whenever we're talking about our attack speed mods. There's 2 or 3 attack speed mods that you could use. Those two being Berserker and Fury, or Berserker and Prime Fury. That's why I said 2 and then 3. So yeah, so Berserker is used for crit-based builds. So anytime you are upping your critical chance with a melee build, you're going to want to use Berserker, and then anything else, you're going to want to use, Fury or Prime Fury, right? So for the sake of keeping this simple and not explaining the mechanic of Berserker, on this build, we're going to be using Prime Fury or regular Fury, which is just going to up our melee speed, right? I realize this, I said Fury there. I don't know why I said that, but it just kind of rolls off the tongue whenever you're talking super fast like this and trying to explain things, but that's okay. Okay, so next up, we want to throw on our main element, right? So this is what is going to give us the bulk of our damage versus certain enemies or enemy type within a faction, right? So let's say we're modding versus the heavy gunners within the Grenadier faction, and we want to strip armor. We're going to be modding for corrosive damage in this video. Now, this is dependent on the enemy that is super annoying in whatever faction you're going against. So let's say you're going versus the Corpus enemies, you want to mod for Magnetic. Infested is corrosive again, and then, it's just kind of situational, right? So I go ahead, I throw on Fever Strike, I throw on Shocking Touch, and this is my must-have mods on my melee weapon, right? These mods are always going to be on my melee weapon, apart from maybe Berserker right here, okay? So sometimes Berserker might be swapped out for Prime Fury or whatever, depending on what type of build I'm running, okay? So if I want to do a crit build, I'll have Berserker on. If I want to do a status build, I'll have Prime Fury on, so on and so forth, right? So those are the 4 must-have mods, give or take your attack speed mod, which is dependent, that you'll always have on your melee weapon. Like, no matter what, you will have one elemental combo, you will have a damage mod, and you will have an attack speed mod in the form of Fury or Berserker, right? So that's your basis, and now from this point onwards, we have another 2 slots, which we could either go crit, we could go status, we could add on extra elements, different things like that. And we have, more quality of life slots as well, right? So what I usually do, I throw on my Life Strike, which will give me health back whenever I'm channeling, and then I just stack up the rest in elemental damage, right? So I'd throw Life Strike maybe down over here, and then I'd throw on my 3rd element, which would give me more damage versus the heavy gunner, right? So this is 100% extra damage. I'd have my 75% from corrosive, 25% from my molten impact. Then I would add more damage on top with my dual stat mods, right? So I'd be putting more corrosive damage on my weapon by throwing on Virulent Scourge and Voltaic Strike. This is the simplest form of modding your melee weapon because it's just stacking up a shit ton of damage and having one quality of life mod on there. So you can see all the stats over here. And just to show you guys how this performs versus a heavy gunner, apologies in advance if you guys can hear my keyboard. Again, I'm using the Black Widow, so it might be a little bit loud. Let's go ahead and make this guy level 145. Go ahead, press simulate. Here we go. Bring out our melee weapon and move over to him. I'm not going to be buffing myself up in any way, shape, or form. But we're just going to go ahead and kill him. Actually, it's probably best if I just go ahead and make myself invincible over at the console over here, just so we don't embarrass ourselves by dying, right? So let's just go ahead, go Warframe invincibility, simulate, here we go. And let's go ahead and kill this one heavy gunner over here. I know there's another one to my right, but, you know, doesn't matter. So you'll notice when you're meleeing, you also have a combo counter in the bottom right hand corner. That's really important because that's going to up your damage as well. So we have a 2x multiplier down there as well. And then there's obviously going to be other mods in the future that we're going to take advantage of, which will, again, allow us to get more of a combo counter, more damage from our combo counter, maybe more crit chance, things like that there. You see this guy's already down to half health just from meleeing him a little bit. I'm going to swap to this target over here because I don't want him to fall off, just so you can see how fast we kind of go for this guy's health. So this is with Prime Fury on. This is the attack speed. It's max rank. Obviously, you could get higher with Berserker. Berserker is just a faster attack speed in general whenever you get those crits going. But, you know, keep in mind, you actually have to get crits to sort of proc before you can, you know, take advantage of the attack speed of Berserker, right? So, other than that, that is basically our very simple build, and that's effective versus level 140 enemies, as you guys can see. Obviously, it's not one-shotting or anything, but it's still effective, right? It's the simplest form of modding for a melee weapon that I can show you guys, and really that's it. So using the same type of structure, we're going to make a completely different build, and this is going to be a Blood Rush body count build. Okay, so a Blood Rush body count build basically entails the use of those two mods that I just mentioned, Blood Rush and body count, and this basically revolves around your combo counter, right? So if we go ahead, we type in Blood Rush over here in the search bar, we get that there mod out, Blood Rush. You'll read the description of this. So 165% critical chance stacks with combo multiplier. So the more combo multiplier you get, the more critical chance you're going to get on your melee weapon, right? So this is like an introduction to scaling damage, okay? And then body count will just extend the amount of time on our combo counter, right? So we get an extra 12 seconds. That's like a quality of life mod. So this is like your standardized mods to have on your Blood Rush body count build, and then you have two slots over here to mess around with. You can throw pretty much anything you want on there. What I recommend if you're going for top damage, you want to go with Organ Shatter for more crit damage, and then you may also want to throw on either a third element, or you could throw on like something like, I don't know, another Life Strike mod or whatever. I usually go for a third element just so I can keep my damage consistent. You know, and you get the most damage potential out of any sort of like enemy or whatever. But there's other things you could do, other things you'd throw on there that we'll talk about later on. So let's go ahead and kill this enemy over here. Go ahead, simulate him, and I'll show you guys how this works. Now, as you'll see whenever we're meleeing this guy, we don't start off fast, we start off slower because we're using Berserker. But what you'll notice is as we begin to build up our combo counter, you'll see we'll get more and more crits. We'll start the melee faster, and that number will keep on building up, and that'll scale with our combo multiplier, right? So we're getting the damage from the combo multiplier, and we're also getting the damage from the crit multiplier, and we're getting the crit damage as well. So the more crit chance you have, you know, the higher your crit multiplier is going to be. The more crit damage you have, the higher your crit multiplier is going to be. And then you have your combo multiplier down the bottom right as well. You can also throw in other things like, let's say, for example, you have Valkyr's Warcry. You get extra DPS from that. You are invisible. You get the invisibility bonus, which is like a stealth multiplier as well. You know, there's a lot that comes into consideration whenever it comes to your Blood Rush and body count. That is basically like an introduction to scaling damage on your melee weapon, which basically just means that the more you melee in any given match, then the higher the damage is going to be, so that could take you into endgame. So Blood Rush body count could, in theory, be used on any single weapon that you ever melee with, right? So as long as you're able to build your combo multiplier, you're able to get that crit chance up to make it crit viable to use this exact build on it to get as much damage out of it as possible. So like I said, obviously there's exceptions there, so you could throw on like an extra life strike here. You could throw on, you know, more damage for your corrosive damage or whatever. You could throw on True Steel for more consistent damage. You could throw on maybe Weeping Wounds for more status chance if you want to go for like a hybrid weapon or something like that there. So, you know, there's a lot of things you could do with it. And just to give you kind of like an example of how powerful, like if you really take advantage of, let's say, like a weapon's stats and the different mods you have at your disposal, this is what like an alternative Blood Rush body count build could look like. This has no elementals on it because the slash procs from the Adrax do a lot of damage. This is the type of build that you could, you know, theoretically make. So you still have your Blood Rush and body count on there in like a form. Drifting Contact is kind of like discount body count, because you get 10 seconds combo duration, but you also get 40% status chance on there as well. You have Prime Reach on there as well as, like, you know, just one of those, another quality of life mod. Weeping Wounds on here, it's like Blood Rush, except it's the status version. You have 45% status chance, stacks with your combo multiplier, so it's more or less the same thing, just with a lower value and for status chance. You have your Organ Shatter on there for more damage. You have Berserker on there for your attack speed. And then we have Maiming Strike, which is mod. It's a mod-specific type of weapon case, I guess you could say, because this is like a slide attack weapon. So we threw this on here so we can get a flat net percent crit chance buff. And you'll see like how powerful this weapon is because of that sort of combination of mods that we have on there. So if I just go ahead and whip away at this heavy gunner, right, you'll see how fast this damage kind of starts to stack up, right? So we're in the red crit territory already. And if we take a step back, we can just watch his health kind of dip down just bit by bit because of that status proc right there. And obviously you have the crits on top of it. If we have more enemies spawned in, which in a regular mission we would have, you know, they would die a lot faster. So let's spawn in multiple level 145 heavy gunners just to kind of show you the effects of, you know, how this build kind of works versus multiple enemies, and, you know, how fast you can build your combo multiplier and things like that. So theoretically, what you can do here is you can come into the middle here, wait for all the enemies to kind of push up to you if they plan on doing that, and kind of just spin around this here thing, right? So the more enemies we're hitting, the faster we're building their combo, and the faster we build our combo, the faster we build our multipliers, and then more crit we have, more status damage we do, things like that there. And these guys kind of just die. They just drop all around us, and that's what makes Blood Rush body count, combo, Drifting Contact, Weeping Wounds, etc. those melee mods really insane, right? So you have your standardized Blood Rush body count build, which is the one I showed you to begin with the Broken War. You have your very simple, well, sorry, that's the wrong way around. You have your very simple build, which was the first build I showed you guys, and the second build was your very simple Blood Rush body count, easy to understand, easy to digest type of thing, which we'll go in and we'll take a look at again. If I just go ahead and despawn all the enemies over here, so we press kill enemies. There you go. And this is the builds that you want to be going for realistically. So here is your regular build. So let's go with our Pressure Point. This is what you're going to build if you're like a newer player, right? Pressure Point, and then you go with your Fury. Let's see, where is it at? Prime Fury. There we go. And then you throw on your Fever Strike, you throw on your Shocking Touch, you throw on your third elemental, which is Molten Impact, you throw on your Life Strike, which will give you your health back, and then you stack up your damage with the dual status mod. So Virulent Scourge, Voltaic Strike, and you see you get a decent amount of damage. Now remember, the total damage you deal, you get by adding all these numbers over here from Impact down to Corrosive. You add all those together, and that's your total amount of damage, and then you find your output of damage once you calculate or take into consideration the you know, the resistances that enemies have. So like, let's say a enemy is immune to impact damage by 25%, it'll take 25% of your impact damage off your total amount of damage, and then that's the final number that you output, right? So that's like a brief description of how damage works. So this is your basic build. This is what newer players are gonna kind of strive towards in all their melee weapons if they don't understand how modding works. This is what you're going to show them. Again, your stance mod, it matters, but it also doesn't matter, because like some stance mods have a really positive effect, some don't. So it's really down to it's like case specific, right? So Crimson Dervish is really good because it ups your damage by like 300%. But really, that's it. This is your very basic build. Moving on, this is your basic Blood Rush body count right here. So you have your Pressure Point, your Berserker, Blood Rush body count, Organ Shatter for your crit damage, and then you have your elements on here as well. Again, you can swap out this elemental mod for something like Life Strike or something if you want a little bit more sustainability, or just throw on some different quality of life mod on there, which it's totally up to you as well. And then again, there's also another way of modding for crit, which is a more simplistic way if you don't own Blood Rush body count, right? So you basically just do the same thing. You throw on your Prime Pressure Point, you have your Berserker, you get your True Steel, and then you also get Organ Shatter on there too. And then that will give you, your crit chance. Then you throw on your 90% Elemental, you get your Fever Strike, you get your Shocking Touch, you also have your Molten Impact, and you get your Life Strike. And this is like the simplest crit build that you could possibly make as well, which again will also deal a lot more damage. That's going to deal more damage than the config A that I showed you if the weapon allows for a nice crit build, right? Which most melee weapons do, because like I said, theoretically, if you're doing it right, then your Blood Rush body count could be used on any single melee weapon in the game, and then, they could get in the crit territory, right? As long as you're meleeing enough, you're going to eventually build that combo up. You're going to get the damage from the combo, you're going to get the damage from your crit multiplier, you get the crit chance multiplier as well, so whenever you get over 200% crit chance, your damage is multiplied again. So there's a lot that comes into play whenever we're talking about crit stuff and weapons. So melee weapons are in a really good spot right now, and hopefully this gives you guys like a nice little look into why your stats over here, they don't really mean everything, because like your crit builds like Blood Rush body count over here, this is going to do more damage than this here build in config A. So config B is going to do more damage than config A over time, right? This one's going to scale a lot better than this one over here because of the Blood Rush body count combo. So yeah, that is like a brief rundown of how you mod for Blood Rush body count. How you make modding very simplistic. There's also status builds as well, so you basically just take Berserker off, put Prime Fury on here, and swap out your 90% mods for things like your 60% mods. So you throw on your Violent Scourge, you'd throw on your Voltaic Strike, you'd throw on your Volcanic Edge, and then you'd like stack up your damage for your 90%. So you throw on Fever Strike, you'd throw on Shocking Touch, and this is your status build. There you go. And then you can always like improve that as well by going like with Drifting Contact and Weeping Wounds. So let's see if we go here, we can look for Drifting Contact, which is a D polarity, I'm pretty sure. Like we have Drifting Contact. Here we go. You put that there in, Shocking Touch place, and then you get Weeping Wounds. You could put that in the place of like, Life Strike here, for example, and then you have a pretty decent build with that there. So it's like, more or less the same thing. You could also throw Blood Rush on there as well for a little bit of scaling damage. You could throw on, let's say, Condition Overload as well. That's also a really nice status mod, which would increase your melee damage based on the amount of status effects you have on. So if you have Corrosive and Fire on there, and you're proccing it very often, then that this is a mod maybe worth considering on a very high status chance weapon. But there's a lot you can do with it, and there's a lot to be taken into consideration whenever it comes to your melee modding. But usually I just recommend going with the Blood Rush body count, and then if you want to go more in depth with it, you can look at more in-depth videos. Like take for example that Adarax build that I showed you. That's a very like specific case weapon. Like you can throw on your status, you can do like a combo of status and crit with that. So there's a lot to take into consideration whenever it comes to melee weapon modding, and every single melee weapon is kind of different in its own right. So yeah, but that's just a standardized way of modding. That's what I show people, and that's what I kind of want people to understand whenever it comes to modding. This is the simplest way. This is a simple Blood Rush body count scaling build, and then this here is kind of just a mess of things that I was talking about earlier. So it's totally up to you how you want to mod your melee weapon. And yeah, I hope you guys learned a little bit from this video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button below, and you want to see more Warframe content from me, hit subscribe. If you haven't entered into the giveaway yet, go ahead and click the link down in the description below. It's a giveaway that I host every single month. Never say it at the start of the video, because the people who are only here for like the first 5 minutes of the video don't really deserve to get in the giveaway. I only give it to people who actually watch the videos. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button below. You want to see more Warframe content from me, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.